Hi, Cynthia McCoy Miller. We see that you joined. You want to do an audio check, please? Cynthia, can you hear us?
Barely. I'm trying to do another device. So good morning, though. I can hear you. I'm working it out.
Great. Thank you for checking in. Bill Wathan, you want to do a sound check, please?
Good morning. This is Bill Watson. Happy Friday.
Thanks for joining us. That's what I was saying. I didn't try to. I don't know if you. So good, you guys. Hi, Roger Robinson. You want to do a sound check, please?
Sure. Good morning. Happy Friday. Roger Robinson here.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the JPA.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Oh, it's my turn.
Kristen Stranger, I see that you're on. Do you want to do a sound check, please?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning, Jennifer and team. This is James Lacurdo.
Oh, hey, James.
Hi, James. Thanks for joining. Veronica Rodriguez, have you been able to join yet? So I don't see her on, but we do have a forum.
Well,
Yep.
All right, then we have quorum, so we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Welcome to our July, CalSAWS monthly meeting, and we do have quorum. I just confirmed with the team, and from an agenda standpoint, we have a pretty packed agenda, so we're going to move expeditiously through that. We have three standard action items that we need to go through. We have it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 consent items and 8 informationals. So like I said, a pretty full agenda. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and commence into that. So this is the opportunity now for public comment on items not listed on the agenda.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. This is Kevin Aslinian with the Coalition of California Welfare Rights Organizations.
Yes.
And I was looking at the financial report of the meeting of 5/9/25. And it has a nice list of all the SC system change requests. And it has the hours, but it doesn't say those hours were premise hours, maintenance and M&E hours, or M&O hours. And for whatever it's worth, it would be nice to know those hours, what types are they? If that could be done, that would be nice. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your comment, Kevin. We'll go ahead and take that under consideration, whether we can categorize them that way or not. Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move into our, that takes us to our action items. And I believe we have 3 separate ones, correct?
Yes.
Go ahead, Julie.
Yes, so the first one is the approval of the group sales agreement between CalSAWS Consortium and the Fairmont San Francisco for the CalSAWS annual conference for 2026. This is and the delegation authority to the CalSAWS executive director to sign the catering and AV agreements in the amount not to exceed $175,000. So that's the first item.
We have to vote on it.
Yeah.
We are voting individually. on it.
Yeah, so I need a box, yeah, right. I wasn't sure I was gonna.
Okay, so we had our conference this year in San Diego, so we looked back north to see if there's an opportunity north, and we did find one in San Francisco. And so that's what we're proceeding with, and at a nice place.
Yes.
So it should hopefully attract folks for the conference in terms of attendance and in the traditional June timeframe. Any questions from our board members or our state partners on this item? I know that the projects worked hard to find a good spot. They looked at a lot of feedback off the prior conferences where we had pillars that blocked views and things, and really tried to avoid that and found a place where we have a lot of open space and where we can do breakouts, shrink the time frame for breakouts, be able to have them with very clear views of all the presentation areas. Any comments, any questions from board member state partners? Okay, hearing none. Any public comment on this item? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the selection of the next year's conference site?
I'll move.
Thank you, Craig. I'll second.
Marla?
Yes.
Oh, Roderick isn't here. Okay, Bill?
Yes.
Is Chris Woods on? No, oh, no, the fourth. Sorry. Okay, James?
Yes, yes, I approve. Thank you.
Roger?
Yes, I approve.
Veronica? Veronica? Kristen?
Yes.
Cynthia?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so motion's approved?
Yep.
All right, great. So on to our next item.
All right. Holly, are you on?
I'm here. Good morning. So this next item is Accenture Amendment 33, and this will extend the agreement by an additional 7 months, which would be August through February. And that aligns the term of the agreement to the M&E transition period, which runs through the end of January, plus 1 month for contract closeout, which would then bring it to the end of February. And so the services incorporate the phase transition plan with Accenture ramping down as Deloitte ramps up, but we still accommodate the back shadow support after various cutovers to Deloitte. And so this amendment will shift $13.6 million from the change allowance to the M&O price schedule to accommodate the extension of services. It does also allocate just over $11 million from the change allowance to the M&O price schedule to allow up to 2 additional 1 month optional extensions, but those would be subject to a future JPA board approval. And because we're leveraging the change budget for the extension, there's no overall change to the total contract value, but it would result in a revised change budget allowance that accommodates the previously approved and future CalSAWS change notices. And the costs are all accounted for in our project budget, and current year costs are accounted for in the JPA project budget. And so back to you, Michael, for comments, questions.
Thank you, Holly. Does this amendment to extend, does that give the project some flexibility in terms of resourcing and Accenture being able to still do some shadowing? Is that what this is offering? Because I know we have a lot of policy changes coming through right now.
That's,
So
yes.
is that what this is targeted at? Okay, so reducing our risk of new contractor in that space. Okay, all right. Any other questions from our board member state partners on this item? Seeing none in the room, hearing none and seeing no hands. I have to rely on you guys to help me with the hands.
Yeah, I'm
okay?
we're looking.
Sometimes I can't see it. All right, then we'll move to public comment. Any public comment on this? Okay, hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any second?
This is James.
Okay,
I'll
come on,
Okay.
Thank you very
All
much,
right.
James.
All right, Greg,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
yeah, James, Kristen,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Cynthia.
Yes.
Oh, wait, Roger? Roger, sorry.
Yes.
Let me check back, see if Veronica was here.
Yeah, Veronica, have you joined?
Okay. All right, that item passed, so we'll move on to the third.
Okay, good morning again. The next item here is the Deloitte Portal Mobile Change Order 10. And the current agreement allows up to 9 additional optional months, and we're requesting approval to exercise 7 of the 9 months, which would be from September 2nd to the end of March 2026. So that would accommodate alignment to the anticipated benefits cal transition, which we would anticipate beginning in October and concluding in March. Board approval of the change order would utilize 4.5 million of the optional extension allocation, leaving a balance of 1.2 million for those additional 2 months for a future extension, should those be needed. The change also includes a reconciliation of actual costs to align our prior year state fiscal years, basically aligning to payment months. And then the funds, the services are covered through the project budget and accounted for in the JPA project budget as well. Back to you, Michael.
Okay, thank you. Similar question. This is to help us have flexibility with the resources on transition and vendor changeover on benefits cows, correct?
Yeah, so this extends through that through the transition period. The benefits cal transition is expected to be 6 months. And we would work through the transition scope in a future work order.
All right then. Any additional questions or comments from our state partners or our board members on this item? Okay. Seeing none, hearing none in the room. Seeing none online. Go ahead and open the public comment on this item. Okay, hearing none. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Okay. Do you have a second?
This is James, I'll second.
I think Marla just beat you, James, on the mute button.
Sorry,
All
Marla.
right, so our second.
All right,
Thank
okay, Bill,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Cynthia.
Yes.
Okay. Veronica, are you on? All right, we're good.
All right, that moves us to our, this item passed as well, so that moves us to our consent calendar. We have a whopping 6 on the consent calendar, so we'll all hang in and we'll vote on those as a whole, but we can ask individual questions following the presentation.
All right, Holly, one last strain of your voice. Go ahead.
There you go. Yeah. I'll keep it very brief. The details are actually included in the executive summary, as well as all of the contract documents that are posted with the board package. But the meeting minutes is on the first item on the list. There's no new action items. There are 3 ongoing action items that would be scheduled for the next board meeting as future informational items. The next item is Accenture Change Notice 41. There are 3 categories of updates within this change notice. There are several premise items. There is a transition scope update, as well as several county purchases. The change notice for the premise items is actual reduction. It's a reconciliation of previously approved premise items, and it incorporates state fiscal year shifts, but it results in a net reduction of 1.9 million. And that would increase the available balance in that change budget to 22.8 million. It also utilizes 4.5 million of the original 10 million transition allowance for the extended transition scope. So this accounts for the remaining transition activities through January, and basically it does exhaust the balance available within that allowance. It also utilizes 1.1 million of the original 35 million for county purchases. There's 5 county purchases, which would leave a balance of 9.3 million for future county purchases. The next item on the list is change order 4 with Gainwell Central Print, and this includes the addition of ongoing return mail services effective July this month through the remainder of the base agreement. The base agreement for Central Print goes through next February, and it would result in a shift of $988,000 from the print services change allowance that shifts to the M&O based services price schedule. The services are accounted for all 58 counties, assuming the remaining counties will be initiating one-time setup for those return mail services in the future. We also included an update to actual print volumes through May 2025. So we have all the actual costs to date through May. We've revised the estimated volumes for the remainder of the base agreement, again through next February, which results in a shift of 11.1 million from the print services change allowance to the base price schedule. We also have 2 premise items for a total of 759,000, and the combined result of those changes leaves 14.9 million for future change work. Then we also have 15 county purchases as part of this. So there's been a lot of counties that have already signed up for the return mail in anticipation of the recurring costs being covered as part of the project budget. The county purchases in total will utilize 685.5 thousand of the original 9 million, leaving a balance of 8 million for future purchases. The next one is the infrastructure change order 1. This utilizes 375,000 of the 33.5 allocation for changes, and board approval would leave 33 million for future changes. And again, there's six county purchases included in change order 1. Benefits Cal work order 19 will utilize 1.8 million of the 33 million change allowance for 4 initiatives that are associated with updates to our security and privacy framework, which will allow us to align to NIST controls and updates to those controls. And that will leave a balance of 17.3 for future work. And lastly, the ClearBest work order 3 utilizes 1.8 million of the 8.8 million change allowance for various premise items that will leave 2.6 million for future changes. And in all of these cases, the costs are accounted for either in our project budget or through county funds for county purchases and or premise. In all cases, the funds are accounted for in the JPA project budget. Brings us to the end. So back to you, Michael.
Thank you, Holly. That was a lot to cover. I have a few questions in there. On change notice 41, which is the on B listed on the agenda, there's like 5 county purchases. What are the county purchases related in that grouping?
Yeah, those include, let me just get back there. Fresno Gen AI extension of services. We have an LA County purpose-built data set. We have Sacramento County GAGR changes. San Francisco has some ancillary support, and also GAGR changes. And again, those are all, there's some reconciliation as well in there, and again, extension of some services.
Okay, great. On the next one on C, where there's 15 county purchases, probably most of them, if not all, are related to the return mail.
Yep.
So I know we got some additional funding from the state on that. So how does that impact the county purchase component?
So these county purchases are for the one-time setup costs. There's some one-time implementation support that is required to implement the recurring services. The project budget accounts for the recurring costs.
Okay. So, yeah, and I understand the one-time setup is not a very large amount compared to the ongoing. Good. Thank you. And then the county purchases in D and the Gainwell infrastructure change order 1, are those related to the call center? Or
There's there's some, so one of them is Fresno County purpose-built data set. There's also LA County purpose-built data set. There's complementary county purchases to the M&E county purchases in some cases. We also have Sacramento County Calabrio training. We have San Bernardino GAGR noticing, and San Diego has a purpose-built data set, and Ventura has an additional export of some time on aid documents.
Okay, thank you for clarifying those. I'll open up to other comments or questions from our state partners or our board members on the slate of 6 items. Seeing none, hearing none. Any public comment? Okay, hearing none. Do we have a motion to approve the slate of 6? I'll make a motion to approve it. Do we have a second?
This is Bill. I can second.
Too late.
Bill, Greg just beat you to the mark, but thank you very much for getting off mute fast. I appreciate that.
All right.
I think we've got our second, so we can go ahead and take over.
Marla?
Yes.
We are here, Greg. Bill?
Yes.
Oh, yes, okay. James?
Yes, I approve.
Roger?
Yes.
Veronica, are you on? Kristen?
Yes.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Okay, great. That takes care of our vote items, and that brings us to our informational items. And the first one up is to do a look back on the conference. So I'll turn it over to Julia.
Yeah, so a couple of weeks ago, well, a few weeks ago now, I can't believe it, we're already approaching the end of July. We had our June conference, our annual conference for CalSAWS. We had a great turnout. Thank you for all who made it down to San Diego. We know we don't have to twist many arms to visit beautiful San Diego, and thank you for San Diego County hosting us again this year.
Rick.
Yeah, Rick, thank you. Hello, goodbye, Rick. He's retiring now. Yeah, he was a quick board member. So we just want to go over the different sessions, the overall feedback that we received. We opened up the mentee during the conference and then kept it open for a week after, just to give people some opportunity to reflect, see if they wanted to give feedback. And so we'll just go over that overall. So overall, the conference got really great feedback, and we were talking about it before the meeting started, how we're hearing second and third hand from people saying, like, I heard it was a great conference, and so that's reflected in the numbers and the survey results. We had one or two outliers in there, but overall we got great 4 and above on most areas across the board. One of the areas that we did receive feedback on was a number of breakout sessions. That one is the lowest one in terms of overall, but when you go into the feedback, what people actually said is they wanted more sessions. They didn't feel like they had enough. They actually thought they would really benefit from more breakouts.
Like more variety to choose from?
Well, just more numerically, like they wished it was longer. They actually said they wished it was a longer conference and that they had, more. And so that's great feedback. We want to hear it wasn't long enough over, it was too long. And so we're going to incorporate that feedback next year in terms of making the sessions maybe shorter so that we can fit more breakout sessions into the conference. So we can be more effective with the time. Overall, everyone felt like it was a valuable experience for them to attend. Next one. Now breaking out the actual sessions themselves, we looked at these one by one so that we can also take feedback and see where there's room for improvement, what sessions resonated with people the most. The plenary session, this one is the first one at the top of the conference, where I shared about the objectives, priorities, and kind of future state in terms of prioritization and operationalizing the strategic objectives of the JPA. Overall, as you see, it was a 4 out of 5 across each of those areas where they felt like it was engaging, appropriate duration. There's a lot to cover. This is where our little VCR guy made his debut.
This is Schoolhouse Rock?
This was the Schoolhouse Rock, yeah. That's now on YouTube, actually. Yeah, it's got like last time I checked 7 likes. 7 likes.
We're building on it.
We're building. Yeah, there's like momentum now. You know what I mean? We got merchandise coming, soon. But everyone felt like, the presentation, there was knowledge and that they learned something new during that session. Session 2 was a Gen AI call summarization session. So this is the one on here's what Fresno's doing, here's how you can prepare, here's some of the tools and the things that we were making available on calsas.org for the counties to assist in their prep for implementation of Gen AI call summarization. As you can see, 4.1s and 4.3s, there was a lot to cover. Thank you to Fresno for joining that panel and participating and sharing their lessons learned on what worked well and what didn't. And thank you again for the team on that. So that was obviously well received, as a lot of counties are interested in the Gen AI call summarization.
Yeah, I think that actually even opened up just people's eyes to what we can do,
Yes.
not just what's being done in
Are the
but what we
possible.
can do to support workers.
Yeah.
Using AI in a very supportive way. So
Yeah.
I was excited about that.
Yeah, and I think one of the great pieces of feedback from not San Diego, but Fresno was they tried to make a process change while they were also implementing this, and they were basically like, don't do that, like for other counties. And so again, I always say thank you, Fresno, for being the guinea pig on this, because I think that there was a lot of tweaking that will assist the other counties and give you more velocity as you roll it out. So very exciting. Next one was the collaboration model redesign. So this one was the one where we were sharing about the changes on the collaboration model. We had the state, our advocate partners. I know Jen Tracy is also on the call right now. And so this one, in terms of whether it's relevant, obviously the collaboration model kind of exists outside of, staff's like, day-to-day operations. So that number isn't surprising, but they felt like it was appropriate, duration. And so we really appreciate the feedback. And again, appreciate the cross-agency collaboration on the collaboration model redesign.
Governance can only get so exciting.
I know, yeah, it was just one of those topics, it's like one of those where it's like, can you really get like all that jazz about, flow charts and things like that? Probably not. All right, so harnessing analytics for better decision making. So this one was just kind of sharing some of the new things around analytics and how people can leverage it at different levels within the organization. This one got kind of deep in the technical side of it. So, so the numbers weren't really, all that surprising, but it was a really great session. We actually showed a video of kind of art of the possible, with using AI to get like self-service around data and analytics. And so that was the one that we did there. Thank you for the team. And I know we had some, people working like burning the midnight oil to get that video prepared for that. So it was 3.9 and 4.0 on that one. But
on this one, as we go towards next year's conference and thinking ahead, analytics, I think, is going to be one of the main things that counties are definitely interested in, and driving it through a business lens, I think, will be a really, important thing. Now that we've sort of dug in the technical, driving it through a business lens, I think, would actually add value. Maybe the scores would come up next year.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as we get more clarity on like, okay, what areas, because that's a big space, right? When you say analytics, there's so many different pieces of that that you can kind of cut apart as we get, more guidance on, prioritization of what areas we can focus on the most and have the most impact, especially around like accuracy and things like that. We're really looking forward to that because that's pretty greenfield for us at CalSouth. All right, using gamification to improve contact center. So I want to qualify this one that this is no representation of how good this session was because I thought it was phenomenal. But I think the feedback we got was this was also kind of a variation of the CWDA session. So, San Diego had already shared this at CWDA. So those that came in thought it was going to be significantly different. They're like, oh, well, we already heard this before. And so that's why I think that's reflected in the 3.7, 3.8. The other piece of that is that with San Diego doesn't use CalSouth contact center; they have their own, and so some were wondering, how does this fit into their current contact center operations? With a lot of it being focused on culture shifts that have to precede this type of enabling of like gamification, the incentivizing how they drive change through the culture change around like customer versus welfare. There was a lot really great insights in that session. And so, but again, some had heard it before. But I do appreciate San Diego making themselves available to share their story and their journey around gamification.
And I think this is an area again that could be further teased out,
Yeah,
because the whole gamification piece of it can be a little bit polarizing depending on how people look at what people do at work versus what they don't.
Mm-hmm.
But just the incentive aspect of how do you incentivize, call center, contact center workers? How do they know that they're actually, contributing and making progress? A strong lean into gaming could, gaming components can be work in one setting, but it might need to be something else in another setting, but still grabbing onto that incentive basis that staff really can latch onto. So I thought there's a lot of potential we can build off of.
Yeah, and the big headline was here, like how they use data to make tweaks to their contact center. Like if you focus just on the data part of it, it was very fascinating. And so I agree. It might be chunks of that we might want to tease apart. Cracking the code, no surprise here, right? We already heard in the county purchases that Don and Michelle and team were successful at this breakout session around return mail because we got a lot of demand. I think they were accosted right at the conference around this. And
this is surprising to me.
It was surprising to me.
Because it's not a real high touch kind of user experiential thing. And their scores are way out of the park. So I was like, all right, I guess they got the people that really are in the weeds went to that session.
So, and Don will tell you this, I kept telling her, your session's going to be standing room only. And it was, I walked in there and it was like, I had to there was no seats. But efficiency, right, is really top of mind for everyone, especially around this time where we were we were kind of waiting for HR. When we didn't know what was going to happen. We knew people are going to have to do more with less. And so it resonated with a lot of people. It was the MVP of the conference, So
and now we're having a lot of county purchases.
Yeah, now there's county purchases, so so great. All right. And then networking with the mission, we already said that we have a lot of introverts in this ecosystem. No one really likes networking and talking to each other very much. So the networking with the mission did not get the high scores that we expected. But
forcing people
we forced you on
discomfort zone.
Exactly. Yeah. We tried to get you to step out. They stepped back in like turtles. But what we did, the reason we actually put this in was because of the survey results from 2024, where people said we want space just to like interact, and we realized that might have been a very fringe, group that actually did that, because it was fun. There was a lot of laughter. I think Michael was in that, that's.
I was in it. It's an awkwardness to force people to kind of aggregate.
Like, get up. We're like,
I got to know a lot about a lot of different individuals this way. But I think it was discomforting for a lot of
Yeah.
participants, just because it is, it's sort of forced
Yeah.
socialization. So.
Yeah. Post-COVID, this is very difficult for us to do. So that doesn't mean, I still think there's an appetite for connection. How we facilitate that, we're going to tweak it next year. We won't force you to do silly
Can't run afraid of
games.
this.
Yeah. We won't force you to do silly games. But we did take the feedback and it's well, I think it was too long too, because it was about an hour and 15 minutes. All right, so the favorite parts of the conference is here, this little word cloud. I said this during PSC. This is not representative of the volume, but I will kind of, humble brag that the VCR song had the vast majority of the responses on what they liked about the conference. Wendy said that it's reflected in the larger font. Thank you. So, but everyone, the gamification, people actually, even though it didn't get high scores, they thought that was a great concept. The collaboration model showing us what community focus and impact. The keynote speakers. Michael and Rick. Thank you again for also presenting during that time. All was interesting. Great theme and location, the networking sessions. So, overall people felt like the conference was really well executed and that they walked away with that time being well spent. Yeah, I was very impressed at how the project came up with another theme that we haven't used before and figured out a way to tie it into, wait till next year. Mission Possible. That was We're
wonderful.
obnoxious about this.
I'm not the most creative person.
Yeah.
I'm not the most creative person, so I'm very pragmatic and I go into it like business, but I love when somebody can be creative instead of me.
Yes.
And it can help it along. And I did like that. I thought it was every time CalSAWS has had a pretty good theme tying into where we're at in terms of on this kind of continuum. I thought it fit into that really well. So I'm looking forward to next year. A creative theme that has no involvement of my input.
None of yours. We will not be asking you for input on
we're
that.
talking widgets and all kinds of things like that. No one wants
Exactly.
to hear that. But thank you. I appreciate that piece of it too.
No, we appreciate that feedback. So overall, that was the feedback on the positive, how we can improve better chairs. We have nothing to do with chairs, but we did talk about before this that we're going to have a bring your BYOLS, bring your own lumbar support. Because we just can't do anything about the comfort of the chairs.
But we can do the shorter durations.
The
We'll
shorter
actually help with
duration.
that because you're up and then
Oh
moving
yeah,
again.
that's true
So
too.
I think
Yeah,
that'll
up and
address it
moving
as well.
around.
That 45-minute
Yeah, we
sweet
did
spot
say
window.
45. Yep.
Yeah.
45 minutes. The slides, we knew this. We're doing these, and we had flow charts. So it's hard to make flow charts readable because you're going, you're trying to. So we got to figure out how to do that. Those are the ones that were hard to read, and I think also because of our color scheme, sometimes the white doesn't sit. No more gradient. We kind of learned, don't do gradient anymore. It's funny, they low on the networking, but they said add a fun mixer. I'm like, what do you guys want from us? It's like we tried a fun mixer and it didn't work, but we hear what you're saying. Two plenary sessions. Again, I think that's back to shorter, things, the code name, that game. Oh man, I won't say how many participants actually participated in it, but everybody that participated won. It's like the top two, and it's only two people that actually return their.
I think we overestimated.
Three. Oh, it's three. It was three. Okay, I'm sorry.
Everybody's ability to process how many different kind of.
Yeah, I feel like Isaac was my son was the only one in there. Like, I was like, oh my god, very excited about it, but that was a little overwhelming, a little too complicated. So we will simplify any of the games.
I see a hand up too.
Yeah.
Amy.
Yes.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can go ahead and allow public comment right now.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, hi, Amy.
Great. Hi. Hey, I just wanted to kind of ditto. It was a great conference. The slides, correct. When you've got really detailed information, very hard to read from a big ballroom like that. Maybe make more slides with simpler content in bigger font or something. But that was a part that was a little hard. And I just wanted to reiterate that because that was key. Those were some key charts that you were showing and we couldn't read them. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
That was the trick, Amy. I'm just joking. We do want you.
Well, some of us wanted to really read it.
Thank you, Amy.
Amy, you know, all the materials are available on calsas.org now,
Yeah.
so you can go back and review.
I appreciate
Definitely.
that. You know, kind of
Definitely.
wanted to be able to, yeah, wanted to be able to see it as you guys were talking about it so we could
Oh,
ask
that's
questions.
fair. That's
Understand.
absolutely fair.
Bubblify it. Bubbles.
Well, you know, there's other than
Bubbles.
PowerPoint, I used to use, and I can't remember the one, but it would actually, like, as you were going
to
to,
remember
I can't remember the
Is that
name of
Prezi?
it. It's like Prezi.
Prezi?
Prezi, it's
Prezi,
Prezi.
yeah.
Yeah, Prezi, I love that because you zoom in as you're going through it and that gives you the ability to still have all of that, but you can actually zoom in and zoom out of it. So it's something to think about. No,
All improvements we can pursue.
Prezi, I love Prezi. Yeah.
All right.
I think we're done.
So since we did public comment on that, I wanted to find out if our board members or state partners had any comments or feedback that they wanted to share with the project on the conference.
Yeah, I'll just say, it was an excellent conference and well received by the folks that I spoke with. And, I went to the presentation on the return mail, and while return mail doesn't sound like a really catchy workshop to attend, it's really because it just has kind of a simple concept, and it's something you can walk out with to be able to take back to your team and say, hey, we can do this, and this is what's going to make it efficient. So it's really something to think about when putting the workshops together. Is can you walk out with something that you can take back and say, yeah, I brought this back and we're going to do it.
So we do have a lot of pragmatic folks in our business, so
Yeah.
having some tangible takeaways is always a thing we should strive for. Any other comments from our board members, state partners, before we go back to public comment? Okay, I just like to say I really enjoyed it. I try to dive into sessions I normally wouldn't dive into, and some of them I was better at than others, but of course the game, I wasn't very good at the game, the networking game, but I still enjoyed trying. It humbled me. So I'll go to public comment and then we'll move on to the next item. I see Amy, did you raise your hand a second time?
Yeah, sorry. I just a couple other comments. I did like the networking and the workshop on connecting with folks. I did connect with a gentleman from New York, which was really interesting. The gentleman that was there from New York State, and he was very interested on what's working, what's not working from a CBO standpoint. So that was a real plus. I really appreciate when people from out of state can at least have interest and glean. And second of all, at the end, it would have been nice, maybe by county, I'm not sure. Well, by county, I should say. What are our takeaways? What are we going back to our county with? It gives us an opportunity at the end to say, okay, what have we learned? So my suggestion would be to have a time at the end where counties can connect and come up with a plan of what they want to take from this. And I know that should just naturally happen, but it doesn't all the time. And giving designated time would be helpful.
I appreciate that comment. Any other public comment before we move on to the next items? Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on, and that's going to bring up a Benefits Cal upload research update. Robert.
Good morning. As part of our continuous improvement process, we regularly request examples of challenges our workers and our beneficiaries are facing. In June, we received 7 examples in regards to document upload challenges. Upon review, a couple of those, the documents were uploaded, but the applications were not submitted. Therefore, no one could see them. In one instance, the worker was unable to find the images themselves. And in the remaining instances, the documents didn't meet the eligibility requirements, and the workers had to request additional documentation to meet that threshold. And what we're doing in order to help improve that from a transparency standpoint and in an ease of use standpoint is we're continuing monthly learning exchanges with various counties. If any of the counties would like more of those, we can absolutely do that. We are sending out monthly image tips and best practices for working through that process. We're also in the process of creating quick tip guides, and those will be sent out here in the next month or so. And then we're looking at enhancements to make the system more intuitive. And as we go through this, we continue to ask for more feedback and welcome those submissions through our communication manager, Ashley.
And just to kind of tie this back, in May, during the JPA meeting, there was public comment about the document upload issues. Immediately after that, there was a reach out for actual cases so we can do the research. And so those are the 7 that Robert is referring to. We've also shared this information directly with the advocates and went over it during our quarterly stakeholder meeting as well.
Well, thank you. I really do want us to take feedback when we get it and run it to ground and find out if there's something there. And I appreciate the effort by the project to do that in this case, and we'll continue to do so as we uncover other challenges going forward, because there's always going to be something there. Any comments from our board members or our state partners on that update? Any public comment on that update?
Yes, this is Jen from the Advocates Group. And thank you so much for coming back to this topic. We also were able to cover this in our June stakeholder meeting with the state partners. And we talked more about this with our outreach partners. And there was a couple things that came up where it was mentioned that people were uploading documents to the wrong case. But what our assisters shared is that if people have multiple cases linked to their account, they're offered to upload the documents to a drop-down list of case numbers, but it's not clear which one is correct. So if you have a Medi-Cal case number and a CalFresh case number, and maybe there's a different one for your kid than there is for you, people are not explained where they should upload them. And so then it doesn't get to the worker in the right way. And I want to just emphasize that when we're looking at these systems, I would like to request that the first way that we assess is this system set up to support people to succeed, or is it putting them in a position to fail? Because when we frame the issue as a problem of the customer somehow did something wrong, when the system isn't structured to support them to make the right choice, then we're going to miss the opportunities to make the system actually work for everybody. And we've raised this perspective before when we've been in our user-centered design meetings, when we hear things that are like, oh, well, people aren't uploading their documents. They're not sending them in. And it's like, is this really a problem of the customer? Or is this a problem of the system or the business process or the way that we're communicating to people? There was also an issue where assisters are uploading documents and they're checking the information before they send it. And then they hear from the worker that the version of the document the worker gets is of a lower quality than the version that they uploaded. And so the worker can't actually read the document, but there's no way for the assisters to know that, because when they're uploading it, it looks clear and legible to them. And the third thing that they shared was that, sorry, I'm like catching up on my own thoughts here for a second, but like, okay, there's something going on where things are being uploaded on different days and then it's confusing. And I think there's another question there to be explored, but I really wanted to raise that, like, when we're assessing these issues, can we please first look at the system and make sure the system isn't set up to make it harder for people before we assume that somehow the customer is just doing something wrong.
Okay, thank you for the public comment, Jen. I don't think our intention is ever to blame the user or the customer for things that happen, but it is our challenge to continue to evolve and make the system work more effectively for our workers and for the public. So this is one area that we've talked about before as opportunities going forward on building in assistance. Trying to assist somebody who's using it on deciphering the proper place to put something based on maybe, the OCR recognition or something along the lines of what's available technically to assist somebody who may or may not know how to navigate this. And I think that's on us. That's our challenge to continue to keep evolving. So appreciate that feedback, Jen. This is something that I think we'll be forever committed to, is to continue to make it a more effective tool for both the workers and for the individuals who are submitting these uploads, because uploads have always been a challenge from the very beginning. When the systems were separate, we had challenges in that way, and I think we're closing them out, but we got to keep that momentum. So thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to our next item so we can stay on.
I have a public comment, if I may.
Okay, Kevin.
Okay, yeah. So this has been a major issue for advocates. I think Jen basically, I'm sort of meeting hopping, but I should say that this is a big cause of error rates. the fact that people upload their verification into the system and the worker has no idea that that's happening. I have no idea why that happens, but the worker should know as soon as I upload something, the worker should get an email with a copy of what I uploaded, because the system should know who my worker is. And I guess the issue maybe is that we have call centers that you really don't have a worker, but we do have people who have task assigned, who have a task to do that. So maybe that's the person who should get an email with a copy of what I uploaded. And I should also get an email with a copy of what I uploaded. And that's what happens in regular businesses. And as you well know, the error rates are going to be a big factor in SNAP, food stamps. And it could cost the state about $1 billion if our error rate exceeds 6%. So I think this has to be addressed.
Okay, thank you very much, Kevin. I appreciate your comment. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to our next item, and I believe that's a benefits Cal update.
Thank you, Michael. Good morning, everyone. In the next few minutes, Chloe and I are gonna walk you through and share some insights on the customer behavior we have been observing and supported with the data from the first quarter of this calendar year, 2025. And the previous JPA board meetings, you heard us speaking about how can we improve the customer loyalty, how can we encourage or accomplish some stickiness, and we want to also briefly share with you what we are seeing during their application journey. If they are completing it, or if they are not, or dropping off, where are they dropping off, and what could be the potential patterns that we see, and what are the tendencies that we observe in the flow itself from customers, and what could be the underlying behavioral reasons or facts or the patterns that we observe. With that, I will be handing over to Chloe to walk us through what we have so far from the data standpoint.
Thank you, Owner. Good morning, everybody. So we are sharing out today some application completion page exit rates, specifically from Q1 of 2025, so January through March of this year. Specifically, we saw 328,000 customers start new applications within Benefits Cal just during Q1. And the completion rate within 7 days is 64% out of that 328,000. And within 30 days, it jumps up to 68%. You can see down below the rates of exits, kind of the inverse of those numbers. So we wanted to drill down and look specifically where these drop-offs occur, so that eventually we can get into why these drop-offs occur. But first we needed to understand where they're occurring. And we can see in the application, there are two kind of heavy hitters with the drop-off rates. The first is your information, and the second section is document upload. Your information, we lose 13% of customers, and doc upload, we lose 8%. And I will say we just heard about doc upload with public comments as well as our own share out that Michael provided. So we know that document upload is something that needs attention and that is actively being addressed. So we wanted to look into specifically your information, what's going on there. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. Thank you. So we drilled down into, again, that Q1 data, January through March of 2025. And we see that 39,000, or that 13% number that I shared on the last slide, those are the folks that drop off within the Your Information section. And if you're familiar with the Benefits Cal flow, you will know that within Your Information, there are quite a few other sections. You can see them listed here. These are all of the categories for Your Information. And there are 4 kind of heavy hitters within Your Information. So within that 39,000 people who drop off, 15% of those folks drop off at the very first section, preferred language, 23% drop off at your name, 13% at your address, and 23% at program selection. So these are kind of the 4 areas that we want to drill down in the future. The great thing about these metrics is that they can help kind of indicate where we need to conduct further research, either deeper kind of data analytics on kind of the back end side of things, as well as customer research. Going directly to the customers and figuring out, what is going on here? Why are people dropping off at these sections? One point I want to add, I know Julia will add it if I don't, is that these drop-offs are not necessarily a problem. So, just because we want to investigate more around why they're occurring, now that we know the what, it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing, right? Some people go into the application just because they want to investigate, especially since we're seeing a lot of people drop off at the beginning. Maybe they go in, they see, okay, this is what I have to do. Now I understand, I have the lay of the land. I'll come back to it later. Some people might be going on for other reasons, they want to kind of scope it out for whatever reason. And it's good that we have these various layers to kind of weed out any potential bad actors. So, we want to balance all of that while also making sure that we make the application as user-friendly as possible, identifying any kind of barriers that customers are having as they go through this process and working to correct those barriers. We also see that most of the people that tend to drop off are those in that older age group, 40 to 50, as well as people with more members in their household. Makes sense, right? Like those tend to be the more complicated cases, more complicated households. Maybe those are people that end up needing a little bit more help from an assister. But we did just want to point that out. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, Chloe, yes, I was going to say that. Thank you. The other thing that I did want to add is that 23%. Some see benefits Cal and they just assume it's benefits for all programs in California. And so what we also think is that, and that's been validated by some of the visits that the team has done in like lobbies, is that those programs don't exist. And so once they get to that point, they realize, oh, the program that I'm actually looking for is not in benefits Cal, and that's when they exit at that point. So it's a little more nuanced than just, user experience, but some of it is valid exits of the application as well.
Exactly, Julia. So what we did in our LA County state visits, right, like in the lobbies, what we heard, because of the naming convention, so it's benefits Cal, some customers gave the feedback, okay, this is any potential benefits I may receive from the state of California, this could be the portal. And when they go to the program selection, they don't see those programs in the program selection screen and they tend to drop off. Like, okay, when I said benefits Cal, I thought it was relevant, but it's not necessarily what they were expecting. Another thing we heard was, okay, now I have a 5-person household and a large household. It may take a while for me to collect all necessary information to complete it. I get a sense of the application, then I leave and come back. I have it, I have to first get my required information collected prior to that. We also work with our state partner and the consortium leaders to add more insights and assistance, what those programs mean, to instruct the customers to give them more information as much as possible to guide them through and to reduce these drop-offs. But we are going to continue to talk to our customers, take it to the lab, and make adjustments as needed.
Thanks, owner. So as you all see, this is Q1 data. We will continue to generate these metrics. We have Q2 data that is getting like nice and polished. You can expect to see that in the future. We'll continue to gather these figures so that we can track these trends going forward.
All right, thank you. I like that we're using data to kind of take a look at where things are standing out, and also not to make too much assumption about what the data means. We need to go into that a little bit more. One of the other things I want to find a way for us to look at is to get a good understanding of how people might, look at Benefits Cal in terms of their journey throughout public assistance. It could be that they're, through the application, is the next time they really engage with this only at a recert or a renewal period, or is there anything more in it for them? Because I'm trying to figure out like what's in it for me type of thing for them. Because if they go through this arduous process of trying to set this up and then they opt out of it, they're not getting any benefit until the next time, and the next time is 6 months later or a quarter later or further. That may not be, helping them stick and stay. But it's also, what is the need? What is the need of the population out there? So if there's a way for us to do more surveying in that kind of capacity and really understanding how people engage and want to engage the system, I think that would be helpful for our designs going forward. So I appreciate us kind of digging in more and more from a customer lens standpoint, so that this can be driven in that way.
And I think taking a more surgical approach to where Benefits Cal adds value to a customer journey is important, because sometimes like through the lobby, like in LA County, for example, they're just coming in just to get an update. And it's like, is there a better way for us to provide visibility on the status and kind of those breadcrumbs of the tracking of where they're at in the process, so they don't have to come into the lobby to just get a simple question answered, right? There's certain touch points where it's like, can we offload people out of the lobbies onto this platform, and they're touching it more just to get those simple updates. We definitely need more data to substantiate that.
And I also think about some of the convenience factors of like the anonymous uploads and things like that. While those are convenient, we need to find out like what's the drawback of having an account, versus an anonymous upload. And it might point to they only do it once every so often, so they don't feel like going through a process to do that. So I just want to capture that. That's enough of me talking. But any other comments or feedback from our state partners or our directors here? Okay, I'm open to public comment, and I see Jen Tracy has her hand up, and then I think Amy has hers as well. So Jen.
Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate these drill downs to get a better sense of where we might put resources or better understand how to support customers. It sounds like this particular part of the application might people just being kind of curious to check it out. There's 2 other places in the application where people have gone on, more than halfway through or to the end, and then we're seeing significant drop-offs. And I really appreciate the report that's on the website that shows those other 2 places. And so I'm wondering if we will have a chance to look at those places soon, and to get more information about, like, if someone spent all that time, they filled out all that information, and then they leave and don't come back, like, where are they falling off there, and like what might we do to make sure they get all the way through to the end to submit?
Good point. Thank you. Amy?
Yeah, I just want to mention, I'm really finding a lot of people are appreciating the text messaging. They may not go into a Benefits Cal website. That's not user friendly for them, but they will look at their text messages, or if Benefits Cal ever became an app, that's a more go-to for them than getting on a website.
Thank you for that input. And that just is a reminder to us to look at it holistically. It's not just the app, but also the supporting aspects around that, which could be texting that might actually help with user uptake. Any other public comment? Okay. Thank you very much for that presentation and for the commitment by the project to keep going after this. We're really committed to trying to nail down what some of the inhibiting factors are and increase our usage here. So that brings us to a policy release update.
All right, this is Michelle. I'm gonna give us an update today, but before I do that, I'm gonna turn it over to Lisa, and she's gonna highlight some items from our 2505 release.
Good morning, everyone. All right, so it feels like it's been a while, so let's just recap where we've been, even though it was just a few weeks ago, it feels like last year. So 2505 went out just before Memorial Day. We had a lot of SCRs in that release, cross-functional and tech and training. It was 70 in total. A couple of highlights for you. One, San Bernardino County, and I heard James on the call, they went live with automated GAGR. So the automated GAGR solution, just for folks, is something we built through the migration years. 18 former Calhoun counties use that. It has all the data collections or rules, automated noticing, and fiscal component. Our former C4 counties, for the longest time, have been using the system to do data collection, but they have manual rules, manual noticing. They do have the fiscal capability. And in the case of San Bernardino County, they had a legacy system that they're also using. So this was a big milestone because we have about 6 or so more counties who are ready to move over, and the benefits obviously are automation around those rules and noticing and saving time. And I do just want to thank San Bernardino for stepping up and going first. They had a very heavy engagement. Went very well, and in fact, we're doing a retrospect with the county next month, and those lessons learned will be shared and used for counties going forward who want to move over to this solution. So thank you there. Second highlight that's not actually listed on the sheet, but very important, we went live with the alternate formats for our Medi-Cal members, DHCS program. So that was switched on. To date, we've sent over 2,000 notices of action. We have packets right now that are with central print. Again, this is where case special circumstances are updated and people can select their print large, whether it be large print or braille or CDs, audio CDs. So we're in hypercare for this because we're just sending these alternate formats out. We want to make sure in the case of if it's a redetermination packet that as it comes back through imaging for large print that everything is flowing into the system as we expected. And so we'll continue to monitor that as we move forward. For those folks who are going to ask, you only said Medi-Cal members, we are working with CDSS. They are working on their policy and request for estimates to move forward with looking to introduce similar functionality for our CDSS programs. I think it was June, yes, middle of June, we had our integrated release with our CalHears partners. This is a planned release each year. We have 3 of them that have tight integration. We had interface updates. We're sending our Magi and non-Magi and Magi and mixed Magi information back and forth. So there was material updates there to the interface as well as some accelerated enrollment changes. And then one more item that just completed, and again, this is related to data retention. It is something that we focus on at this point every year, where we review the caseload, apply the data retention policy that was approved by the counties. This year was the first time we ran it for all 58 counties in CalSource. And there are about almost 4 million cases that were reviewed, and those rules were applied. Shell cases were created as appropriate, and we have just successfully completed that run. Let's jump to the next slide, and we'll talk about time limits. So on just quick background, many of you know we've had the WinTip system around for several decades, and was a central repository for time limits for the eligibility systems. We had interfaces between all the systems, and you know, it was built on COBOL, which is getting hard to maintain these days. As we moved forward, and all 58 counties were on CalSource, we had the opportunity to really consume those time limits and store them in CalSource. So that effort was actually executed. The conversion ran over Memorial Day weekend, and we have you know, our counties live and using that data, as well as our continued OTSI help desk that field out-of-state inquiries as well as tribal TANF inquiries. So let's just go to the next slide, and I'll talk a little bit about what is it. I know it's statewide cache time limits, aka SCATO. Yes, we laugh at that now, but it is what it is. So from a technology perspective, it's all new technology. It's a relational database. It's serverless. From a data perspective, as I mentioned, there were 500 million records that we brought in. We ran 3 mock conversion runs before the actual conversion. It was we actually completed ahead of schedule on Memorial Day weekend, which was nice. People got a little bit of rest, but it was brought into the system. And from a user perspective, it is now fully integrated. So when you log into CalSource, if you have the right security, you can log in. There's no separate login. We have, removed that interface, so no longer having to do those reconciliation activities. And we also have, we spent a lot of time doing quick guides and putting materials together so folks could understand the new look and feel, as well as the functionality that is in the system. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say we also implemented a real-time interface with EDD. They do have a number of users that access that data every day. So instead of kind of a batch update that went back and forth, they now get a real-time interface and integration there with CalSource. Next slide.
I do want to, while you're
Yes,
saying
ma'am.
thank you to all the counties that raised their hand for testing, for the wood tip replacement. And I know some kind of late, Placer County being one, it really helped, this implementation go smoothly and successful. So shout outs there.
Yes. So since we went live Memorial Day weekend, we have been in hypercare, continuing to monitor usage and performance, and as well as incidents that come in. So there's some just quick stats here on how many transactions, over 3 million, 9,000 users approximately every day are accessing the application. Since we went live, we've got about 121 incidents that have come through our help desk. And the county help desk, and as of this morning, I think there are about 11 open, and we're down to about 7 defects. So continue to watch this. We also have a couple of enhancements that are in flight, and they're scheduled to go in with or before the 2509 release. And then transition activities are starting for this application as we move forward as well. So I think that is now over to Michelle. Is that back to you? All right.
Yep. Thanks, Lisa. All right, so I'm going to highlight a couple of items. I'm not going to read everything on the slide, but just to highlight, for July, we have some foster care rate increase changes coming up. So at the end of July, on the 24th, we're going to update the new foster care King Gap values, the new rate values in the system. And then on the 9th of August, we're going to run batch EDBC for foster care, King Gap, and AAP. The AAP values are scheduled to be updated on the 31st of July. So I just want to highlight that. With our 2507 baseline release, just a couple highlights. We made some changes to support the CalFresh 296 report related to expedited services, and some made additional changes for California residency for CalFresh. And then moving on to August, we do have our standard CalFresh COLA, CalWorks IRT. So those efforts are tentatively scheduled for August. We are waiting for values, so we are dependent upon CDSS to get those CalFresh COLA values to us. So this is typical for this time of year. And then over to September, we do have when we'll run batch EDBC for that CalFresh COLA. And also just to highlight, in September as well, we'll have another release with CalHears, and we are making some significant changes to support the single streamline application. And then as we approach October, this is still very much up in the air, the ABOD waiver, should that move forward and end, we will need to do some mass mailers for that population. If you go to the next slide, please. So before I give an update on the 2507 release, Lisa, did you want to give an update on the lobby management?
I can. All right, so me again. So we had planned for this release that's getting deployed on Sunday to implement what the SER called lobby modernization. So what is that? We are upgrading and retooling the application that runs on the kiosks in the county, and with this SER, the Android fact tablets that I think close to 20 counties have in use. So it has been a watch item because it has a material impact, obviously, for all those counties. So we actually had an internal go, no go meeting on this plan prior to our green light that just occurred 2 days ago. So that was a week and a half ago, and we were about 88% pass through testing. We had a dozen or so defects we're still working on. So that was one concern that we had. The second concern that we had was around the devices that are in use. And so we were working with the counties to get information, because you may have a device, but you may not use it. And specifically focusing on the versions that were being used, and some of the data that we had indicated there was some unsupported and old versions that were in use. So we wanted to work with the counties to make sure that we had the latest and greatest data, because the new application, works with software vendor supported versions, which is for Android, which is version 14 and above. So those two things coupled together, we made the tough decision that we needed to hold and not deploy this change, because we, like I said, we do not want to impact you all and the services you provide in the lobby offices. And we needed that week to roll back the code to make sure what we deploy has no remnants of this new application. So that was the decision that we made, that was communicated out to the counties, I believe last Wednesday. Where does that leave us? So right now we have two things in flight. Once the deployment goes out, we will re-deliver the new application and continue system testing to get down on that 12%. We also are actively working, regional managers, thank you, are actively working with the counties to get the data on, what's active and in use versus what's perhaps sitting in your break fix. If you're on version 13, can you go ahead and upgrade those? And we just got great news this morning from one of our counties that they've finished that upgrade, so that's awesome. We also have counties that are on versions below 13 that cannot be upgraded, so we're working with them on what are their procurement plans. So that is kind of our key dependency there for picking an actual deployment date. So once we have the full complement of input and agreement with the counties, that are, again, about 18 counties that we're working through on this, we can then work on what does a likely deployment date look like and internally stack hands. And as soon as we have that, we will be communicating out to the counties on where we're at in the path forward on this particular item. So a lot of information there. I know it's not question time yet. So Michelle, did you want to finish the release and then?
Yep, I'll take it back. So with regards to our 2507 release, system test has all wrapped up. Our county validation effort is all wrapped up. We had our green light meeting on Wednesday and we have a go there. So deployment will occur on the 20th with changes being available to counties and users on Monday, the 21st. And then Monday through Wednesday, we will have our post release calls every day. And then we sent out, a bunch of communication prior to the release, the major upcoming changes document. We had our webcast, which is very popular with usually over 500 people on the call, and our newsletter. So next slide. All right, so now to the fun stuff. Talk a little bit about our state policy changes that we have coming up for Medi-Cal, and then I'll talk a little bit about the HR1 items for CalFresh on what we know. And just, before I get started, I just want you guys to know that the project is working very closely with CWDA, DHCS, and CDSS on these efforts. And we are all very focused on, minimizing the manual work that counties, for counties wherever possible. So that is really a focus of ours for all these changes that are coming fast and furious over the next few months. So for the first item, I'll talk a little bit about the Medi-Cal expansion freeze. So those without satisfactory immigration status. So new applicants on January 1, as you guys know, will only be eligible for restricted Medi-Cal. And then we also have an effort, to keep those that are currently on in their full scope until sometime in, the 2026. So we do have an SCR. We're working through the policy with DHCS. We will work through our Medi-Cal committee when the design is ready to get feedback and have them review the SCR. SCR is currently tentatively scheduled for deployment on December 22nd, 2025. Go to the next slide. Another Medi-Cal item is our reinstatement of the asset limit. So we just I think it was last year we made changes to no longer have an asset test, but now we're going to bring that back starting January 1st, 2026. So there'll be an asset test for the Medi-Cal population, and then we have an SCR again scheduled for a tentative release in December of 2022 or December 2022, 22nd, 2025. And then again, work through the Medi-Cal committee to review the design and provide feedback once that design is complete. Next slide, because there's a special part of the asset change, is that beneficiaries will be required now to report asset information and their redetermination. And so to support that, DHCS is in the process of updating the applicable forms to allow customers to report that information. When we implement the asset change in December, we will be updating the applicable Medi-Cal RE packets to include that information. But for redeterminations that are in January and February of 2026, those packets are mailed in November and December of 2025, which is prior to the changes that we're going to implement on December 22nd. So for the interim, that January and February redeterminations, DHCS is creating a new asset form. And that asset form, Gainwell, our central print vendor, is going to add it to the RE packets before mailing. So they'll manually stuff those in before the packets are mailed in November and December for those January and February redeterminations. So for this temporary form for asset information, because of our quick timeline and we're moving very fast here, this form is only going to be developed in English and Spanish. And as all packets, all correspondence includes the Gen 1365 will be included in the packet. And so they'll have that available should they need some other translation. All right, let's go to the next slide. So on the CalFresh, the HR1 changes. So what we know as of this week, and we've met twice now with CDSS on these changes. So we're meeting weekly. We're going to start having weekly cadence with them to talk about these changes. But what we learned this week is that some of the HR1 changes said that they're effective upon enactment. Well, on Monday, CDSS informed us that they don't know what effective upon enactment means. So at this time, we don't have implementation or policy effective dates for these things I'll highlight here today. So definitely more to come. CDSS is working very closely with FNS and all the other states on timelines and getting policy clarification for these things. So what we know is we're going to have changes to citizenship. So our non-citizen population, we know there's going to be changes to eligibility and benefits. We know there's going to be changes to ABOD requirements. There's expand some time limits, the work requirements, the age for who is considered an ABOD is going to change, and some exemptions. For the standard utility allowance, what we know is that the SUAs, so that $20.01 benefit that we give to customers today that allows them to be able to claim the standard utility deduction, we know that is only going to be offered to elderly and disabled members. We also learned that CDSS was getting ready to implement some policy that would allow internet to be claimed as a SUA deduction. And we know that that is no longer an allowable deduction. So CDSS will be pulling that one back. We know there are some changes coming to the Thrifty Food Plan and that the CalFresh Healthy Living Program, the funding has been eliminated for that. That is my update. So Michael, I'm going to turn it back to you now. Questions?
I do want to qualify and say that we do have our state partners on the call.
We do.
So,
Yep.
And they were during the PSC that it's very robust.
Yeah, I will immediately turn it over if our state partners want to speak to this. Do we have DHCS, CDSS, or even ITS on this to speak to some of what we're doing together? Because this is an effort by everyone to try to pull off all these policy changes. So I see Teresa came up.
Yeah, hi, good morning, everyone. And we know that, these are massive changes across our programs that are affecting, the members for DHCS, but also just generally across the board, the people that we work so hard to serve and provide really important benefits to. And these changes are going to be very impactful. And so just wanting to share with folks that we have been keeping our CalSAWs and other system partners in the loop since we began to see HR1 develop and looking at what that means for us. DHCS is already deep into the review on the Medi-Cal side, what things are going to be changing and happening. We know that it is critical that as we are moving forward, not only do we have our system partners side by side with us, but that we also have our county partners and our community partners with us as well. So you're going to be hearing from DHCS for both on the state implementations that we've got. We've started work groups for counties and for our community partners already, and those asks have gone out. You will see similar things going out on the HR1 federal changes as well. And so, there's going to be a lot of communication, a lot of coordination. It is very critical during this time, and DHCS is committed to being in this with all of you and working together to have solutions for our community.
Thank you, Teresa.
Hi, this is Kathy Ju with CalFresh Policy Bureau, CDSS, and I just want to share the same sentiments as Teresa and what Michelle shared earlier. We are working very closely with our CalSAWS partners to ensure that we can move as quickly as we both can based on, again, the pending policy guidance and implementation dates from FNS. We are in continuous, communications with FNS to ensure that they are fully aware that we need guidance from them as soon as possible, as it does impact the ability to automate certain policy provisions. We are also working closely with Teresa and her team over at DHCS to review all of the work requirements that are going to impact both programs, trying to figure out, where we can streamline processes to ensure that there is overlap in county processes. So we are tracking all of that. We did recently just release, thanks Jessica for sharing that in the chat. We did just recently release ACL 25-50, which includes all of the details around HR1 and the impacts to CalFresh. So I encourage you all to review that if you have not yet. We are working on subsequent all county letters. As soon as we get those final guidance and implementation dates from FNS, we will release those letters as soon as we can. And then we will continue to engage all of our stakeholders in our normal touch points, county partners, our monthly touch points there. Same thing with advocate partners, our our quarterly touch points. And then we do have an upcoming CalFresh All Stakeholder meeting as well, scheduled for early August, that will also provide details around HR1. So again, same sentiments. We are working very closely with all of the impacted partners, and we'll share more as we hear from our FNS partners. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm glad Kathy brought that up, is things like work requirements, looking across programs versus the siloed, approach is really important, so that we're not creating, overly complex, changes for the beneficiary to navigate, so the system can validate across programs, and it'll help us implement more in a more streamlined manner. And then I did want to thank DHCS for putting the form together. Just again, this reduces the manual effort for the counties by allowing us to put that form in the November, December, mailings. That'll definitely be helpful, for the counties as well. So I don't know if OTSI has any.
I think the only thing I'd add is that we've been talking to partners in other states across the country, and obviously we're looking at what are the requirements, what are the opportunities to simplify the process for the public and for the county workers. And so we're trying to talk to folks who are going through all the same hurdles and identify places where we can just leverage each other's work and opportunities.
So we got a lot of questions yesterday about this CDSS related, we're still continuing to design even without the implementation dates, just because we don't want in September to hear that 10/1 is the effective date and we're kind of behind the ball on that. So that design work is still continuing regardless of that date, just because there's not a lot of predictability. But what's beneficial, I think, Adam, to your point, is that it's 50. This groundswell of like this timeline is just unrealistic across blue, red states. It doesn't really matter. Everyone's saying the same thing to the feds.
So good. I'm really, this is a challenge for everybody. So to have everybody's voice at the table, really trying to do what's best for the population we serve is what everybody's goal is here. So I'm glad to hear that we're having active dialogue, and this will be a standing item that we'll keep tracking through these meetings, but there'll also be updates as well through county CWDA meetings, just to keep everybody on the same page, because this stuff is moving and changing quickly, and we need to all pivot together on this. The other thing I just want to highlight out there is that we do have standard things that are going through the system that may be impacted by this, that we need to look at. Like, for instance, I heard the COLAs being scattered through there. Those were something, even without these kind of level of changes, that we had to get engagement started early with the feds, because to get their rates and everything in time to make sure that they hit on time, those were challenges without any of this. So I want to make sure that we pull those up as well, and that we don't miss on some of the things that are inherently built into our process that have to happen and have dramatic impact on people's benefit levels. So
yeah, for sure. We've been talking, the COLA one is, one that we've, been talking about how early we can get that. I don't know if Lisa wants to chime in on that, but that's top.
Yeah, it's top of mind. So we met with CDSS this week, and starting next week, we have multiple meetings a week. And I know there's a dependency on FNS, and we keep knocking on the door, keep knocking on that door, because we need it. And this is, and we have our timeframes. We usually know when we need these by, and definitely when we need the drafts by. So we're communicating those dates as well, so we can hit a mid-September date, because we have to run it no later than the second weekend in September.
But getting the drafts early, I mean, obviously that helps us, earlier. So.
And I appreciate the project. We've had to do this in the past of working on designs off of what we have.
Yep.
And that we were a little bit closer to, getting to resolution when it's finalized. And we're going to have to do that. And I also want to, state unequivocally that this is our priority. And that if we have to pause different things, we will. And this is absolutely 100% our priority is to focus on this. So. Thanks to everyone who spoke on this item. I'll turn it over to other directors and state partners if they have any other comment on this.
I do.
Yes, Mark.
Thank you, Michael. I have comments on several of the slides in this section, starting with the SCADL release. I just wanted to put out there that I have heard a lot already about this release, a lot of gratitude, a lot of appreciation for this, relief at the workload reduction for us, appreciation for the increase in accuracy and timeliness. This has been a very popular update, and also a very successful update, it seems like. So thank you very much for that. Let's see here. So regarding, yeah, so I want to talk a little bit also now about the federal environment and the changes that are coming to us. I also just want to really articulate a gratefulness for partnership throughout this. All of us, at this table and all of our partners and everybody is going to be a really big lift for all of us. And so appreciate the working together. I just want to make a plug that it seems like a good time to true up our CalFresh and Medi-Cal renewal dates. So want to keep putting that out there. I think, sometimes people apply at different times for CalFresh and Medi-Cal, but once they're on both, that renewal date really should be the same. And that, especially because now we've got the work requirements for Medi-Cal. Just putting that out there.
Little plug to our state partners out
Yeah,
there.
Yeah, I was gonna
exactly.
say that's, yeah.
Then I just want to make an ask. So, I'm sure at the county levels, at the state level, we're all trying to understand the potential impact for our communities here. And I'm just wondering if there's anything that CalSAWS can do to help all of us try to figure out the scope. My board is asking me how many people is this going to impact in our county? And, we're doing our best to figure that out, but CalSAWS has really good data and good historical data too. So like for the issue about the asset limits, asset test coming back, we've got some data about what that looked like before when it was in place, how many people were denied because of the asset test. It'd be helpful if we could get some of that historic data just to understand the impacts here. Also, we're trying to estimate, how many people are gonna do or have unsatisfactory immigration status and what are those numbers in our communities and what is that gonna look like? Our board, are advocates, they're advocating and they need data to help them with that advocacy.
I was just gonna say on that point, we
Yeah.
actually had a conversation with Teresa last night
Okay.
about the data. And I think Teresa, if you're still out there, I know through getting requests from the counties direct to the project, as well as through the county working sessions that you have planned, we do want to tease those out early so we can start getting that data pulled for you.
Yeah, she put a comment in the
Okay.
chat, so
Okay,
she
great.
says that's on their radar. Definitely. Yeah, so these are the kind of, lasting partnerships that we have to be able to get together quickly if needed, and tease out, a path forward. And like I said, make pivots when necessary. So our partnerships are gonna be needed more than ever, and strengthened during this process, and it will benefit us on the back end of this when we do come out the back end of it, so.
And just one final
go
thing
ahead.
I'll say here, I do completely agree with you that this is our priority now. And also I can speak for only my own county, but for my county and I think for all counties, we're here to help too. We're not just gonna be asking from the state and from CalSAWS for things, but what you need at the county level, please let us know. We are prioritizing this as well.
LA as well, we're all leaning in.
Yep.
Okay, any other directors or state partners that wanna make a comment on this? And we're just slightly behind schedule.
It's okay, some of those are.
All right, then we'll go ahead and turn to public comment. Okay, I think we all know the orders that we have and we're all gonna be marching to them. So we'll move on to our next item and try to get you out of here on time. And I think that's our monthly performance trends.
Yep, so I'll start with infrastructure and rapid, I got the message. From the infrastructure perspective, the chart shows all at 100%. Subsequent to making these slides, we did have one item in the area of notification for a security incident, so that would be just slightly under 100 at this point. Again, just to be clear, that has nothing to do with how rapidly people responded, came together, worked on it. It was a procedural item that we've been addressed with the employee in question. And with that, I will hand it over to Lisa for M&E.
I'll be quick too. Similarly, all green, right now there is one still under review just based on timing, the help desk diagnosis. So we have a handful of tickets that are currently being reviewed and confirming action that was taken on those. So that's the only one outstanding from an M&E perspective.
And I'm sure owner's gonna go fast too.
So I will be very quick for Benefiscal. We all meet and exceeded all the Benefiscal SLAs, including both application as well as the API related SLAs. And from the staffing mix standpoint, we maintain the same staffing mix onshore, offshore, 45 to 55, and remain consistent with the previous quarter.
All right, and Molly with Highland, I believe you're on the phone. If you want to give us a quick update.
Yep, good morning.
April, May, June, Highlands monthly uptime was 100%, exceeding our target. Page views, database transactions, our target's 90%, and both we were over 99% over the last 3 months. Brainware processing target is 97%, and our 3-month average is exceeding that, 99.87%. And then we did have one SLA noted around technical resource response time. This was from the May incidents where we did not meet the response within 30 minutes. Following planned maintenance, our response time was 36 minutes. So that's why you see that there. That's it from Highland.
Thank you, Mallory, and I think that's back to you, Michael.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. Everything is trending well. I do want to point out on the CalSAWS cost of rework, it looks like we're trending in the right direction. Our onshore dropped down in terms of rework percentage, so that's great. I do want to just highlight the offshore, though, is still like 3 times the rate. So if we want to look into that a little bit, especially as we're starting to take on these changes, which will have correspondence and other aspects that we might use some offshore work with, could have a focus. I'll just give that as your takeaway. Any other comments for our directors or state partners on this presentation of performance?
I have one comment.
Yes.
I love this. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
This is yours. This is
And I
actually-
appreciate it. Thank you. I know.
Marla made.
Thank you. It'd be helpful on each of these to have what the goal is. It has the performance, but not the goal. And like the bottom one does, the CalWorks cost of rework says that the target is less than 10%. It'd be helpful to have the target on all.
All right, any public comment? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on to transition update.
Right, and I will start off again on this one. Infrastructure transition, the best news of the day probably is we're not going to talk about it too much longer. Imaging and access management have both fully transitioned at this point in June. So both infrastructure and now the application and coordination with Highland has transitioned. And also with access management, also you would know it as ForgeRock or Ping Identity. That also transitioned in June. Again, infrastructure in February, and now all the application components. In the center, on the contact center, actually the big part of that also has completed its transition on July 11th, so just a week ago. That is everything in the contact center, both infrastructure and the application call flows, all of that stuff. Again, on July 11th, the only remaining item on this infrastructure transition is the call summarization, or often known as the Fresno Gen AI, and that will be transitioning on July 31st, which would bring the infrastructure transition to completion. And Rajesh, I'm going to turn it over to you for M&E.
Thank you, Dawn. So overall transition activities are slightly ahead of the schedule, as you can see from the burn down charts. The last few months, our primary focus was on the SCR transition. So 25.09 release, which is the Accenture release. We basically took a subset of that work and tried to replicate on our own. Where we are on that one is we did complete design successfully. We did complete the build successfully. When it comes to testing, test scripts have been written, and now we are in the process of the execution of those test scripts. That work is quite a bit ahead of schedule, and we intentionally did that so that we can focus on the SCR releases. So moving on to the SCR releases, the first SCR release in production is going to be 25.11. And as I've been saying, we always needed a longer runway on that one. So we started the design early, we started the build early, and we are in the midst of that. The design is mostly behind on that one, and we are focused on build right now. Our plan remains to get that work done ahead of the schedule and then hand it over to the consortium and the counties for testing. And that actually played out very well, because initially when we put together a plan, we did not plan for May revise or HR1. So now it allows us to focus on May revise. And in fact, I think Julia had requested when May revise came about a month or 6 weeks back, we need to log a risk because that was not on the plan. So we basically logged the risk and put together the mitigation steps in terms of what our plan is going to look like. When do we need the policies to be done? As you can see, the policy was done on 6/30. There are minor tweaks, but more or less it allows us to start the design work. So we started the design work on that. We had to figure out the environments because Accenture is still doing their part. So we have a plan on that front. So all in all, We are proceeding on the May revised items, which the release will be on December 22nd. In parallel, we are also working on CalHere's release. The two releases are 26.02, which we are in the midst of JAT sessions, and then 26.06, where we have started the pre-JATs. So lots of activities on the SCR front, and in fact, I would say we are kind of like tail end of transition activities and more focused on the SCR work. One thing we are doing in parallel with that is we are fully aware of what I call as a T-90 starting November 1st. We take over the prod operations, which is primarily the level 3 triage and the batch ops. So I've been insisting with my team, like 90 days prior to that, let's look at day in, day out, what Lisa's team does in production. We'll try to replicate that work in a lower environment, in a sandbox environment. So that way, come November 1st, the team has a fair good of experience hands-on to say, what do we need to do when the issues arise? So we are looking at, what the trends are, how many tickets are coming in day out, what our capacity should be. And we are in the process of like finalizing those plans, and we'll share that with, with Lisa, Don, and consortium soon. So all in all, I think activities are proceeding per plan. Questions?
Okay, thank you. I just want to reiterate the importance of us focusing on quality control and our management of our monthly releases, because we don't have nearly as much bandwidth to deal with errors and issues, because we're going to be implementing these other policies, so it could be exacerbated. So I just really want a greater focus put on that, so that we can have a level of stability to focus on the new changes and not dealing with just our issues coming out of our normal builds. And I do want to bring Rashesh into the whole offshore piece too, to look at that as well. Looking at that had about a 3-time rate, even though the rates are still low, of rework that needs to be done there. So any areas that stick out, we really need to look at refining from a quality control standpoint. So that being said, any other comments or questions from our board members or state partners? Any public comment? Okay, great. I feel a good all hands on deck approach to this, and I want to keep emphasizing that, because we do know the enormity of what we're facing. So we'll go ahead and move on now to the ICT status update. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Peggy Macias, and I am going to provide you all a summary of our ICT effort that we did. It started mid to late last year, 2024, and we put together a work group to address the concerns that were raised by the county. So this slide here depicts all the different efforts that we did throughout the life cycle of our ICT effort. So we first identified our executive sponsor, who helped shepherd the work that the group was doing. We convened a work group, which included our state partners, as well as a representative of all the regions. And that group was looking at all the different pain points that were raised by the counties, and to update our ICT protocol document, which was driving the work that folks were doing for ICTs. And we really put that document was put together when we were several different systems, and so it was in need of an overhaul. And so we convened a work group to take a look at that. And we completed that. Another thing that we did was we looked at all of the training materials that we had regarding ICTs, and those were quickly updated and sent out to the counties so that they could refer to them. Again, the biggest part of what the work group did was work on the ICT protocol. This was a huge effort. We started our work groups, our kickoff for our work group started in November of last year, and we worked through the month of February, meeting bi-weekly with the work group to update the ICT protocol document. We had great participation from our state partners. They were there to help answer questions regarding policy. They were quick to give us information so that we can update the document to be what it needed to be. So that effort ended in the month of February. We took the month of March to update the document, and then we routed it to the work group so that they could make sure that we captured everything that we had all agreed on. And then in the month of May, we, before I get to that, and then the last thing that we did as a result of updating the protocol document, we had a team that reviewed the document with the pain points, the original document that we had with all the information that was provided by the counties, to tick and tie back where we made the updates. Did we address that? If we did, how did we address it? Was it in the document, or was there a guide, a training guide, or something else that was developed? So we went through and checked that off and confirmed that we had addressed all of the concerns that were raised from the counties at the onset of the ICT effort. Next slide, please. So again, here's the discussion on the protocol document. Again, as I said, we started that work late last year. We worked with the ICT work group through the month of March and submitted the document to the work group so that they could review it and make sure that it was what we all agreed to. And then we produced a CIT with the actual document, and it was sent out to the counties. And this is a document that all at the beginning of the session, the counties agreed that this is an area where we all need to be doing the same thing. There's not a lot of room for flexibility because we need everybody to be doing the same thing so that we can make sure ICTs are addressed timely. And so, and the communication piece was huge. So they all agreed to that, and they all raised their little right hands and said, we promise that we're gonna get this out to our folks that are working on ICTs in the counties, and make sure everyone understands and knows what the new process is and where to find the information. And so we submitted that document in May, on May 1st, with CIT 005325. And we are giving the county 6 months working with that document so that we can review and see, one, did you socialize it amongst your staff? And two, how is it working? And is there anything else that we may need to change? And so that work group will be reconvening officially in the month of November to see if there's any changes that need to be made to that. However, we are going to have a touch point with the ICT committee, who is now since the group did all the work, they want to continue to have a forum to be able to talk about, how it's going and if there's any concerns that they have amongst each other. So they have a forum to talk. And we're going to do that via the ICT committee. And so that committee will be getting together. We're in the works right now of figuring out what date it's going to be, but it's coming up, I think, in the month of August. And it will be the first touch point where we ask them, have you all confirmed that everyone socialized it to the counties? Their folks all know that it's out there and where to find it. And then see how it's going thus far, to see if there's any improvements that they've noticed. And then officially in the month of November, we will take any feedback that we received and determine if there's any updates needed to the document. So this is an ongoing effort. We are so thankful for the effort that all the work group members, as well as our state partners, did to help us get to where we did. Next slide, please. So this is just a quick snapshot of some of the feedback that we got regarding the work group. They said it was a great way to collaborate. our two RMs that facilitated did a great job in keeping us on track. I will have to give a big kudo and shout out to the state who were very, very responsive to the questions that this group had. And because of that, we were able to quickly make the changes that needed to be made. So overall, it was a great, I keep saying this was a great example of collaboration in working towards an identified concern or issue and then working through it. Next slide. And here, as I've said, the committee is taking over the ownership of the maintenance of the ICT protocol document. And as we get any feedback on changes, then that's the group that will be continuing to make the changes. And officially in November is when our 6th month from when we sent out the document to see how the counties have been working using the document. So lots of anticipation to hear how it's been going. And I again will take the opportunity to thank all of the experts we had from the counties as well as the state to work through this this much needed effort.
Thank you to the project for keeping us a focus on this. This is an area where we've historically struggled with multiple systems and processes that were disjoint. So bringing this to a head is a good thing, and I want us to keep an eye on it. So I'm glad it has a persistent process. And I think I heard you say there's a CIT on ICT. Okay, so I don't think we'll forget that. But yeah, I like that all hands in on this to create something that's a fairly standard approach across counties. So much appreciated on that. Any other comments from our state partners or our board members?
This is Kristen. I just want to echo that. This is one of the things I was the most excited for when we all became 58. So looking forward to seeing what comes from it.
Thank you, Chris. Any other comments from our board member state partners? Okay, any public comment? Okay, hearing none, that moves us to our last item, and that's the CalSAWS procurement update.
Thanks, Michael. Last but not least, the QA procurement is underway, and we're still cautiously optimistic to hit the August 11th release to the public date. All the other dates are good, and we're looking at ways to dovetail that with the legal procurement, which follows. That's it.
Great, thank you, Tom. Super fast today. Appreciate that. That actually brings us back on schedule. We're actually going to finish slightly early. So thank you all for your participation and active involvement in this meeting. And our next meeting, we will not have an August meeting. We had a conflict with CWA's strategic plan summit that they have scheduled, and it would have put our meetings like within a week or a week and a half of each other, and it didn't make a lot of sense. So we're gonna roll to our September meeting. That still means we're doing all the work behind the scenes and we're communicating through all the channels, and we'll come back together on September 12th, and that will be one that follows up on a back end of a CWA meeting. So I think we'll be back at the Galleria, Library Galleria for that at 1 o'clock. So be there, be square. We'll see you guys. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your Friday. Take care. Meeting adjourned.